Welcome to a new series of videos I'm going to call the Deck Tech Refresh, where we take older precons and upgrade them using cards that did not exist when the precon was released. I'm going to take 10 cards only using sets that have come out since the release of a particular precon in order to upgrade the precon. You can think of it like a 2025 Power Crept precon upgrade guide. Probably. Anyways, the first deck we're going to look at is the Hail Caesar Precon from the Fallout Commander set. It's not a super old precon. It came out in 2024. When I was researching for this video, I counted 8 sets, 8 full sets that have been released since this precon. We certainly will look at older precons, but I actually wanted to build this deck, so I figured it was a good starting point. Speaking of a good starting point, let's begin with looking at the Commander Caesar. Legion's Emperor says, whenever you attack, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, choose 2. Create 2 1/1 red-white soldier creature tokens with haste that are tapped and attacking. You draw a card and lose 1 life. Caesar, Legion's Emperor, deals damage equal to the number of creature tokens you control to target opponent. So pretty clear what we want to do here. We need tokens, we need things to sacrifice to our Caesar trigger, and we have to be attacking. So how can we upgrade the deck to lean into those things? First, let's take a look at a card from Outlaws of Thunder Junction called the Forsaken Miner. So this is a 2/2 1-drop skeleton rogue. Forsaken Miner can't block. Whenever you commit a crime, you may pay black. If you do, return this from your graveyard to the battlefield. I really like these effects. So we can play this on turn 1, and then by the time we play our commander on turn 4, we can go to attack and use the sacrifice trigger on our commander to get rid of our Forsaken Miner, create our tokens and everything. And then the third option on Caesar is a crime, because we target an opponent. So if we use Caesar to target an opponent, we can pay black and bring Forsaken Miner back from the graveyard to the battlefield. And so we've kind of got almost this loop of being able to sacrifice the miner to our trigger, and then paying 1 black to always bring him back to the battlefield. Really good addition. Moving on to Duskmourn, we've got Arabella Abandoned Doll. Whenever Arabella attacks, it deals X damage each opponent, and you gain X life, where X is the number of creatures you control with power 2 or less. In a deck where we hope to create a wide board of 1/1 tokens, Arabella is going to be dealing and healing quite a bit. Super good card, only a 2-drop. I think she goes well. How exciting is this? We get to talk about a card from Aether Drift. Okay. The Bloodghast is for 2 black, a vampire spirit. This creature can't block. This creature has haste as long as the opponent has 10 or less life. And landfall, whenever a land you control enters, you may return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So kind of like the Forsaken Miner we talked about earlier, this is a simple card we can play before our 4-drop commander comes out that we can use to constantly sacrifice to our commander's trigger, and then on landfall, bring it back to the battlefield. So we know we always have a creature we can use to sacrifice to our commander's trigger. So just some graveyard recursion, some things that recur themselves, I think go well in the deck. Now we're going to move on to 3 cards from Tarkir Dragonstorm, but there needs to be an obvious caveat here. Tarkir Dragonstorm released a Mardu precon of its own called Mardu Surge. A lot of the cards in that deck can go into Caesar flawlessly. So there's a lot of cards in that set that obviously were designed with the Mardu precon in mind that also go very well in the Caesar deck. Matter of fact, a lot of people who bought the Mardu Surge precon added Caesar just as a card in the 99. So take a look at the Mardu Surge deck in its entirety. A bunch of that stuff can go into Caesar pretty easily, but these are going to be from the main set. Number 1, we've got Voice of Victory, a human bard, 1/3. Mobilize 2. Your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. I always love that effect, opponents not being able to cast spells on your turn. Makes your turn, you can't be countered, things of that nature. And then Mobilize 2 creates tokens, all of our token synergies, makes Arabella stronger, things of that nature, all of our impact trimmer effects that are also in the deck. Voice of Victory is really good. Windcrag Siege, so when it enters, we get to choose Mardu or Jeskai, and frankly, sometimes the decision is hard. So Mardu says, if a creature attacking causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So basically doubling our attacks triggers, which is what our commander has. And then Jeskai, at the beginning of your upkeep, create a 1/1 goblin creature token. It is lifelink and haste until end of turn. So that could give us our sacrifice fodder for our commander if we don't yet have that in place, and that'd be on turn 3. So at the beginning of turn 4, when we hopefully would be playing our commander, we would have the sacrifice fodder. So a pretty decent card there. And Elspeth Stormslayer, I still think she's floating around like $35. So the entire deck when I bought this was like $45. I think it was a good deal. But one card being $35 versus the whole deck being $45, I could totally understand if you wanted to skip out on this one in particular, but she is incredible in the deck. Basically, anytime you would create a creature token, you create twice as many, so she doubles our tokens. She also could give us some combat evasion, giving our creatures flying, and she can remove the big, bad, scary creatures that our opponents has. She's really good for the deck, but again, 35 bucks for 1 in the 99. I would understand if you skipped out on that, but if you don't, she is really solid. Next, from Final Fantasy, I included Lightning Army of One. So she has First Strike, Trample, Lifelink, and whenever she deals damage to a player, until your next turn, if a source would deal damage to that player or a permanent that player controls, it deals double that damage instead. So she has Boros. I definitely think they had more of a Boros equipment Voltron style of play in mind with this. But if you can get her to hit, we have a lot of impact trimmer effects. We've got a lot of effects that when we create tokens, we deal damage. When we sacrifice treasures even, we can deal damage. So imagine all those triggers now dealing 2 damage instead of 1. She could be pretty scary under the right circumstances. I think she's about 12 bucks right now, and she's not fully on theme, admittedly, but I do like her in the deck. Last but not least, I've got 3 cards from Edge of Eternities. First of all, we've got Servandum. Servandum is a bit unique where he has a payoff from other creatures dying, and then there's a payoff from when he dies later. Whenever a creature you control dies or is put into exile, put a 1/1 counter on Servandum and gain 1 life. So there's a little life gain. When Servandum dies or is put into exile, while its power is 4 or greater, destroy target non-land permanent. So if we sacrifice 2 creatures or have 2 tokens die, he's going to get enough counters to become a 4/4, and then we could sacrifice him to our Caesar trigger if we'd like, and that would allow us to actually destroy a non-land permanent of one of our opponents. Really like Servandum. Halaya, Guided by Light, is just gain life anytime a creature or artifact enters. We can warp her in for 1 white, notably, so that's pretty cool. At the beginning of your end step, draw a card if you gain 3 or more life this turn. So if Halaya enters and then we sacrifice a creature to Caesar to create 2 tapped and attacking tokens, then at the beginning of our end step, draw a card if you gain 3 or more life. We'd have 3 creatures enter, which is gaining 3 or more life, so we'd get to draw a turn. We get to draw a card at the end of our turn. So good card draw, good life gain, really good for the deck. And then I included Sothera, the Super Void, because I had one in my collection. But whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent chooses a creature they control and exiles it. And then at the beginning of your end step, if a player controls no creatures, sacrifice Sothera, then put a creature card exiled with it onto the battlefield under your control with 2 additional 1/1 counters on it. So our deck is very aggressive and wants to attack, wants to be sending creatures to the graveyard, or kind of just by doing the game plan, our creatures are going to go to the graveyard. So this is going to really make our opponents think, do I really want to block that 1/1, that 2/2? If it's going to cost me another creature, I have to exile another creature. So I really like Sothera in the deck. It can be a neat way to kind of empty out other people's boards and give us a good way to get our board going strong. And real quick, I did want to do 2 honorable mentions. So I believe Verge lands did not exist until Duskmourn, and then another cycle was printed in Aetherdrift. So I did want to mention Verge lands. I didn't want 2 of the 10 cards I recommended to upgrade a deck with to be lands, but upgrading a Precon's land base is probably the easiest way to make the deck better. Just making the mana fixing and availability of mana more consistent can really help any Precon. So I did want to talk about the Verge lands. I notably don't have the Rakdos Verge land. I probably should get it, but I just don't have it in hand right now. So these 2 plus the Rakdos Verge land are really good in the deck, as well as a couple more honorable mentions from Edge of Eternities. It's just reprinted Shocklands. So Shocklands have existed, I mean, forever. but they've never been more affordable than they are due to recent reprints. Also, there's going to be another wave in Lorwyn Eclipsed at the beginning of 2026. So if you've ever wanted to get some Shocklands to include in your decks, now's the time. I just wanted to mention that because Edge of Eternity's reprinted these, and obviously they will definitely increase the consistency of our mana base. Likewise, I wanted to mention 3 cards. I feel like this 10 card upgrade has now just become like 90 cards, but I wanted to mention some things from Murders at Karlov Manor. Murders at Karlov Manor came out a month before the Fallout Precons. So technically these wouldn't qualify for the essence of the video that we were going for here. But because a lot of people kind of ignored this set, and because the release of the 2 products was 1 month apart, maybe some of these cards flew under the radar while other people were putting together the upgrade guides for the Precon. So just wanted to mention 3 and only 3. There's quite a few actually in Karlov Manor that goes well in this, but let's just talk about these 3. Treacherous Greed is additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a creature dealt damage this turn, draw 3 cards, each opponent loses 3 life, you gain 3 life. So after your combat, you can sacrifice a token to draw 3 cards, gain 3 life, and ping each opponent for 3 damage. I think that's really good. War Leader's Call is an anthem where our creatures get +1/+1, but also anytime a creature enters under our control, War Leader's Call deals 1 damage to each opponent. So this is another Impact Trimmers effect. Any Impact Trimmers style effect goes really well in the deck, so I want to talk about that. And then Aurelia, the Law Above, she's 3 in Boros. Flying, Vigilance, Haste. Whenever a player, so not just us, but whenever a player attacks with 3 or more creatures, draw a card. Whenever a player attacks with 5 or more creatures, Aurelia deals 3 damage to each of your opponents, and you gain 3 life. So she's going to burn our opponents, she's going to heal us, and she's going to draw us cards, not only when we attack, but also if our opponents are getting pretty aggressive. So just wanted to mention those 3 really quickly. And anytime you talk about a Precon and what cards you would add to it, you've got to talk about some cards that you're going to take away from it. So let's look at 10 that I would take out. The Ruthless Rad Rat isn't terrible, 2/2 with Menace, but he's a 3-drop. The squad cost is what really messes it up for me. Exile 4 cards from your graveyard. We're not doing milling or anything like that. Just going to be hard for us to ever be able to pay the squad cost. Butch Deloria, you can basically pay mana to make another creature a rogue, and then he gets a buff for each rogue that you have. Just a little off theme, seems like a little side quest for our deck. I just don't like it. Dolan Strategy, basically we exile the top card of our opponent's libraries, and then we can play those cards. I don't really like this style of play. If you do, this is a good card for you, but I've always kind of thought of the philosophy as if I wanted to play your cards, those cards would just be in my deck. So I don't really like this one. Assemble the Legion is a 5 mana, do absolutely nothing. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a muster counter on it, and then you create a 1/1 soldier token with haste for each muster counter. So on turn 5, pay 5 mana for this. On turn 6, you get 1 creature token. Turn 7, you get 2. Turn 8, you get 3. I just don't see it. I just don't like that at all. Sierra, Nuka's biggest fan. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, put a quest counter on Sierra and create a food token. And then whenever you sacrifice a food, target creature gets +X/+X till end of turn, where X is the number of quest counters on Sierra. So if you're going the quest counter route, not a terrible card. Notably, she is a 4-drop creature. Our commander is a 4-drop creature. I don't like to include a whole lot of mana cost equal to our commander's mana cost. So with this card not really being on theme, this was an easy one to cut with it being the same mana cost as our commander. Vault 75 Middle School isn't terrible. It's another 4-drop, but exile all creatures of power 4 or greater. This would hit our commander, and I just don't like the idea of that. I don't want to play my commander on turn 4, and then on turn 5 maybe play a spell that exiles him. So I just removed this one. Vault 11, Voter's Dilemma. So there's no protection for our creatures with this card. Down here, our opponents can vote for our creatures. So this card could remove our own creatures from play. I don't like that at all. Mr. House, President CEO, is a really good commander in and of himself, but I didn't include a whole lot of treasure, synergies. The deck doesn't have a whole lot of treasure in it. Mr. House is a good commander, but not really good for the strategy I'm going for with just wanting to create a wide board of soldier tokens. So I removed him. And then the last two, I removed the two bobbleheads. They're kind of just mana rocks. They do have payoffs, but the payoff is always equal to the number of bobbleheads you control. So unless you're running all 7 of them, I don't like to include even one of them. So those would be the 10 that I would remove. Thank you for checking out this video. Don't forget to check the description for the link to my Mox field for the full deck list of my Caesar Legion's Emperor upgrade. I certainly did include more cards than just what I highlighted here today, but the purpose of the video was to show you that there are some cards from newer sets that might have been ignored on the older Precon upgrade guides that I just wanted to touch on and hope everyone gets a chance to see and think about for the synergies that they offer this commander. So thank you for checking out this video. I'll catch you in the next one. Why don't you leave me a comment about the deck we should look at next, because if you don't, I'm just gonna pick the one I wanna do, and that could be terrible for us all. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.